Hey guys, this is Miss Cartledge, and we are going to be talking about the six right traits. And just as a reminder, this is I'm kind of implementing the flipped classroom right here. If you remember on the syllabus, and we kind of briefly talked about it on the very first day of school, flipped classroom basically means that what we would normally do in a classroom, you kind of I flip it around and you do it at home. And so you're kind of going to get a lecture, and this lecture should be mostly review. But you should get this lecture, listen to it at home, and tomorrow when you come to school, then we'll really be able to talk about it and move a little bit further than we would have if I had to do this in class. So, six right traits. You should have learned it in sixth grade, probably seventh grade as well, but it's very simple even if you don't remember it. There are six traits that you should have when you write. Trait one, ideas. Trait two, organization. Trait three, word choice, sentence fluency, conventions, and last but not least, voice. Okay, these are the six right traits. You need to use them every single time you write. Every single time, no matter what type of writing. Okay? So now we're going to go over them a little bit more in detail. But before we do that, this is the process. And as you see, the process starts right here where it says pre-writing, and it ventures all the way up to where it says closure to publishing. Basically, this is what we will, kind of the model that we will follow every single time we write in class. We will always start with some sort of pre-writing activity, whether it's a brainstorming map, you're drawing a picture, you're getting your ideas out in a journal first. We start with pre-writing. And with pre-writing, you get your ideas out, you know what the purpose is for writing, you figure out who your audience is going to be, and then what kind of form or format are you going to use when you start writing. Once you've got that down, you head down to drafting and discovering. That's where you start writing. That's where you start drafting something. And through that, sometimes you discover a little bit about yourself. Okay, and responding. Responding, as you're discovering more and more about yourself and you're drafting things, you probably will respond to it and start to realize, you know what, I need to add this in my paper and I need to add this. You continue on, and once you've finished your paper with like a draft, a full draft, you start with revising. And revising means that you're fixing, basically. You're fixing your ideas, your organization, your voice, your word choice, and sentence fluency, which are 5 of the right traits. And then you move on to editing. And editing it just deals with conventions. And your conventions is basically your grammar. Okay? After you're done with all of that, you move on to closure and publishing, and that's where you decide what kind of presentation you're going to give with your paper. Is it going to be an email format? Are you going to maybe bind your paper up and give it to me in some sort of folder? And publishing means who's going to see it? Is it just going to be Miss Cartledge, or is it going to be all of your teachers or your parents or a businessman? Okay, so this is the process. Next slide. Here's just the right traits continuum. Don't really pay attention to it because I score on a 6-point scale. This is a 5-point scale. Okay, here we are with conventions. And I said earlier it's like grammar. It's grammar, it's spelling, punctuation, paragraphing, capitalization, all the things that you had to learn first before you could start writing. You have to have these things to be a good writer. If you can't capitalize all of your words, a reader is going to get kind of bogged down in this person doesn't know how to capitalize. So make sure that you know how to correct your convention mistakes. Okay. Basically, as long as you can proofread and edit, you can fix your conventional mistakes. Next thing is ideas. Ideas is the heart of the message. Once you know what the purpose is for the paper, then you know what kind of ideas you need to brainstorm. Um, it's the content, it's the theme, it's what develops throughout the story, okay? Um, with that, you want to remember that details that you add in a paper contribute to ideas. And that your ideas are crystal clear and you're not boring the reader with pointless details. Um, as long as the paper's focused, you've got good ideas going on. Okay? Go to the next one. Voice. This one's probably the easiest one to conquer, because it's the magic and the feelings that come through you as the writer. Okay? So if you can hear a voice when you're reading something, then the author did their job. But voice is not particularly, you don't want to have a strong voice for every single piece of writing that you do. If you write a personal narrative, you're going to want your voice to come through your paper. Okay? But if you're writing let's say, a textbook, you don't want individual voices coming through a textbook, or else it makes it harder for people to understand. Okay, but voice means that when a reader is reading it, they can hear the personality and the person behind the paper. Okay, that it's an individual writing it. Um, and you almost want to read it out loud because it has so much voice. Okay, so that's voice, and it's the easiest one to conquer. Third, we have organization. Organization just means it's the structure of a paper. It also kind of flows with ideas, because when you have good ideas, you have to have, good structure. Um, you want it to be clear, clear cut, that your ideas are clear, and it's organized in such a way that the reader is not getting lost. There's probably an introduction there. There's got to be a conclusion, and then there's a body. There's going to be different paragraphs, not just one big paper of words. There's paragraphing, um, and each paragraph connects. It doesn't mean that you have one paragraph, but it just somehow flows into the next paragraph. Okay. Um, Basically, that's organization. Let's go with word choice. Word choice is the use of rich and colorful words. You want to use your thesaurus for this one. It's very easy to work on. You don't want to use the same bland words you've used since you were in 5th grade. You want to use different words, more powerful words that are going to really move the reader. Okay? You want every single word to count. You want strong verbs, and you almost want your writing to be quoted, that you've used such strong adjectives and verbs and nouns. Sentence fluency. Sentence fluency just means kind of the rhythm and the flow of the language. You want to look at, it may be short, choppy sentences, and that adds to some sort of excitement or some sort of something to the paper, or maybe they're long, flowy sentences, or maybe they're just lots of medium, or they're mixed. Sentences really matter. You think simple sentences and compound and complex don't do that much to a reader, but they really do. You want your paper to have lots of inflection, and you want every sentence to begin differently, and you want your information to kind of get to the point. So all of those things depend on how you word your sentences and how you structure your sentences. Okay? If there's good sentence fluency if you can read a paper out loud, and you're not kind of stopping and starting and not really understanding. It's flowing very well. There's rhythm to it. And that's it. We've talked about all 6 of the right traits. I've done it in less than 9 minutes. Give me a hand of applause. And I guess I will talk to you. Get ready to discuss this tomorrow, and we'll talk about it. If you have any questions, write them down now, replay this, and if they're not answered, come talk to me about it. Have a good night.